I saw it vanish, just like that. The sun, the one constant in our lives, gone. No explosion, no warning. One moment it was a golden beacon in the sky, and the next, darkness. A silence deeper than anything I've ever known fell over the earth, not just around me, but within me. It felt like something sacred had been stolen. At first it didn't register. The air still carried the ghost of warmth. My body still remembered sunlight. But the shadows didn't move. They froze in place like time itself had paused. I kept checking the sky, hoping it was just an eclipse. A rare event. A trick of the atmosphere. Anything but what it really was. The stars were visible in the middle of the day. That's when the panic set in. People emerged from buildings like confused animals, phones raised, voices sharp. News anchors stumbled over their words, broadcasting in low-lit studios. Scientists looked pale and disoriented, as if they couldn't believe the data their instruments were feeding them. Solar observatories confirmed it. The sun had ceased all radiation output. No light, no solar wind, no fusion. It was as if someone had flipped the universe's light switch. By the end of the first hour, the temperature had already begun to drop. I could feel the chill crawling into my skin, under my clothes, inside my bones. The animals felt it too. Birds stopped chirping, dogs howled, even the insects fell silent. There was an eerie, synchronized dread, like every living thing knew that something irreversible had happened. 12 hours in, chaos bloomed in every direction. The power grid strained and sputtered. Solar energy, gone. Crops, frozen. Photosynthesis, stopped cold. Food suddenly became a countdown. The sky, once our protector, turned into a window into the abyss. Without the sun's gravitational pull, the balance of the solar system was slowly unraveling. The Earth was no longer tethered. We were drifting, blind, freezing, and utterly alone. I wrapped myself in every blanket I owned, but the cold was relentless. It didn't feel like winter. Winter had a pattern, a rhythm, a promise that warmth would return. This was different. This was a creeping death, an exhale of absolute stillness. I boiled water just to feel the steam on my face. I lit candles even though they gave off barely any heat. The light, they gave off such a small flickering light, but it felt sacred, like holding a fragment of the old world in my hand. As the second day passed, the oceans began to react. Tides went wild without the stabilizing pull of the moon, because without the sun, our lunar orbit began to decay. Storms thrashed the coastlines, water freezing into jagged sheets. Satellite communications fell one by one. We were going dark in every possible sense. I couldn't stop thinking about the plants, the forests, the algae, every leaf, every blade of grass starving in the dark. It's strange. The things you mourn when the end starts to feel real. I miss the smell of sun-warmed earth, the feel of sunlight on my face. I miss shadows that moved with the hour. I miss the certainty of morning. By the third day, we knew Earth's surface would become uninhabitable in weeks, if not days. The global average temperature was plummeting rapidly, and only those deep underground or near geothermal vents had a chance. Cities became ghost towns. Cars sat abandoned. I saw a man wrapped in foil and fur, standing in the middle of the street, staring up, as if waiting for something to reappear. I didn't have the heart to tell him it wouldn't. I thought a lot about how fragile we are, how we built everything, our cities, our systems, our stories, on the assumption that the sun would rise. We never imagined it wouldn't. That was our greatest blind spot. We took for granted the cosmic fire that made all life possible. Without it, Earth is just a rock falling through space, cold and aimless. But even in that abyss, something inside me refused to let go. I kept lighting candles. I kept boiling water. I kept breathing slowly and deeply, like I was anchoring myself to the last remnants of warmth. I began writing letters I had no one to send to. I spoke out loud even when no one was there. It reminded me that I still existed. In the end, it wasn't the darkness that frightened me most. It was the silence. No wind, no birds, no hum of life, just the creak of a freezing world. I closed my eyes and imagined the sun was still there. I imagined its warmth on my face, its light on the leaves, its gravity pulling us gently around its heart. And for a moment, even in the endless cold, I remembered what it felt like to be alive. But memory is a fragile flame. I could feel it flickering as the days blurred together. Food was dwindling. The last apple I had looked dull and bruised, like it, too, had lost hope. I rationed everything down to grains, drops, and crumbs, stretching each morsel like it might buy me one more heartbeat in this shrinking world. Hunger became a distant ache. The cold was louder, more demanding. It invaded every thought, every breath. I would press my palms together, not to pray, but to feel that tiny pulse of heat between them, like some ancient ritual of resistance. The sky had turned unfamiliar. Stars no longer twinkled. They just hung there, cold and infinite, like distant watchers. I caught myself staring too long at them, wondering if someone out there could see us falling into night. If another civilization had lived this before, or if we were now the example, others would study long after we were gone. That thought should have made me feel small. Instead, it made me feel strangely connected, as if even in death, Earth was still telling a story. I built a small shelter in the basement, layered it with books and clothes and whatever insulation I could scavenge. My phone died days ago. The battery gave out in the cold like everything else, and yet I kept checking it. Out of habit, out of desperation, out of denial. No signal, no messages. Just the blank reflection of my own face, more hollow each time. I tried to sleep, but dreams were cruel now. They showed me sunlight and birdsong, the smell of coffee, laughter echoing through a park. Waking up felt like betrayal, like being dragged back into a reality that had forgotten what joy even looked like. I stopped setting a schedule. Time no longer had meaning. There was no dawn, no dusk, just cold and deeper cold. Somewhere, deep underground, I imagined the last scientists clinging to their data, monitoring tectonic shifts, geothermal pockets, trying to predict how long the core could keep us warm from within. Maybe decades, maybe less. But for the surface dwellers, for those of us caught in the open when the lights went out, time was a countdown we couldn't escape. Yet, there was something else, too. In the stillness, in the isolation, a clarity I'd never felt before. Stripped of all distraction, all noise, all illusions, we were left with the raw truth of our place in the cosmos. We are not the masters, we are passengers. Borrowing time, held aloft by forces we barely understand. The sun wasn't just light, it was life. And in its absence I saw how delicately everything had been balanced. There were moments I thought about giving up. Just lying still, letting the dark cradle me into nothingness. But then I would remember a single image. My mother's face in the sunlight, eyes closed, smiling. Or the way golden rays used to catch the dust in the air, making ordinary spaces look sacred. Those memories became my fire, and so I kept going. Not because I thought rescue was coming, not because I believed the sun would reignite, but because in the vast silence of the end, I still had my breath. I still had the heartbeat. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to honor the world we lost. Now as I sit wrapped in the last warmth my body can give, I whisper to the void, not in fear but in awe. The sun is gone. But for however long this lasts, I was here. I saw it. I felt it. I remembered. The air feels heavier now. It's not just the cold, though it bites harder than ever. It's something deeper, something spiritual. Like the planet itself is grieving. Trees stand like silent monuments, their branches brittle and skeletal, reaching for a sky that no longer answers. The ground beneath me creaks with frost, and even the animals have gone quiet. It's as if the earth is holding its breath. I walk sometimes, not far, just enough to remind myself that movement is still possible. The streets are frozen rivers of silence, cars abandoned mid-escape, houses yawning open like broken memories. Every step echoes, sharp and final, like footsteps on a tomb floor. I try not to look inside the homes anymore. The stillness there is too heavy. It makes the solitude louder. What I miss most isn't warmth, it's rhythm, the cadence of a day, the pulse of sunlight inching across the floor, the way morning used to stir things awake. Life had choreography once, birds, traffic, the buzz of 1,000 unspoken interactions. Now, time is a slow collapse, a drifting, unraveling thing. Even my own heartbeat feels like it's ticking against a silence too big to fill. But something strange has started happening. In the absence of the sun, my mind has turned inward, deeper than it ever dared before. Without the noise, I hear thoughts I never knew I had. I remember things vividly, conversations from childhood, the exact way rain sounds on a summer roof, the way light once filtered through green leaves. Memory has become color in a world drained of it. I began writing again, scratching words into old notebooks by candlelight. Not survival plans, those are obsolete now, but memories, feelings, moments, as if putting them down will keep them real, will keep me real. There's something sacred about ink in the dark, like it defies the silence, if only for a moment. And somewhere in that ritual, I began to wonder, what if this isn't the end? Not in the traditional sense, not death, not extinction, but transformation. What if this is a shedding, a cocooning of a species that forgot how to be still? We always reached outward, chasing more, faster, louder. Maybe this is what it takes to listen, to be still enough to feel what we truly are without the noise of civilization. I look up at the star-pinned sky often now. There's a solemn beauty in it, a kind of cathedral silence. I no longer look for the sun. That chapter is closed, but I do look for signs, patterns in the constellations, flickers of distant motion, anything that suggests we are not utterly alone. Sometimes I swear I feel something looking back. Maybe others have survived, deep below the crust or across distant outposts. Maybe a generation will rise who never knew sunlight, who learned to live by geothermal fire and memory. Maybe the earth will sleep for a time, wrapped in frost, only to awaken one day to a new warmth, a new star. Or maybe not. Maybe this is the long goodbye. But here's the truth that roots me, even now. We were given a miracle, a star that burned for billions of years, and a fragile rock that danced perfectly around it. From that fire came rivers and trees and laughter and love. From that balance came Beethoven and the taste of strawberries and children who chase fireflies. We were born in light, sculpted by it. And if this is how it ends, if these are the final words spoken into the quiet, then let them carry something sacred. We loved the sun. We built our lives beneath its gaze. We forgot to thank it, but we felt it every single day. And now, in the dark, we remember. We remember what it meant to be alive. If you're still with me, still listening from wherever you are, then take this with you. Never again take the light for granted. The warmth on your skin, the golden hours that paint the world in fire. Cherish them like sacred moments because they are. Don't wait for silence to remember what matters. Live now, with awe, with urgency, with reverence for the miracle you're standing in. And if this story stirred something in you, share it. Let someone else feel it too. Pass on the flame. Because sometimes, even in the deepest dark, a single spark of remembrance is all it takes to light the way forward. Subscribe for more stories that awaken the soul before the light fades again.